Cloud with rain emoji, the coziest bedtime story, the rainy day bakery, cloud with rain emoji. A soft and soothing sleep storytelling experience. In the quiet town of Maplewick, where the houses had ivy growing up their stone walls and the chimneys puffed gentle wisps of smoke, there sat a small, beloved shop on the corner of Lavender Lane. It was called the Rainy Day Bakery, and true to its name, it was at its absolute best when the skies turned gray and the rain began to tap gently on the windows like a lullaby. The warm scent of cinnamon, honey, and vanilla would drift down the lane, inviting every soul nearby to take refuge inside its toasty walls. The bakery was run by a kind older woman named Miss Alma Honeywell, whose smile was as sweet as her pastries. Her silvery bun of hair was always dusted with flour, and her apron told stories of jam, melted butter, and powdered sugar. She believed that every rainy day was a gift, an excuse to slow down, to sip warm drinks, and to fill the air with stories and sweets. On this particular evening, as the rain danced on the cobblestones and the wind hummed a sleepy tune, Miss Alma lit the lanterns in the bakery one by one. Their golden glow shimmered against the foggy windows. The scent of cardamom buns swirled through the air, and the faint notes of lavender shortbread floated gently behind it. The bell above the door jingled, and in walked Leo, a little boy in a red raincoat, holding a soggy storybook and wearing boots that squeaked with every step. "Miss Alma," he whispered, "Mama said you'd read me a story." She smiled and poured him a cup of warm milk with a swirl of honey. "Only if you promise to have a cinnamon twist with it." Leo grinned and climbed into the window nook where velvet cushions and knitted blankets waited. The sound of the rain outside made a soft background song as Alma opened the old storybook and began to read in her warm, sleepy voice. But what the storybook held was not just any tale. It was enchanted. As Alma read the first line, something magical happened. The air in the bakery shimmered ever so slightly. The pages glowed faintly, and Leo felt as if he were floating. Miss Alma's voice grew softer and deeper, like the hum of a lullaby. Suddenly, Leo and Miss Alma were inside the story. They stood in a village made entirely of sweets. The houses were made of shortbread bricks and caramel roofs. Chocolate fudge chimneys puffed out cinnamon-scented steam. A jelly bean lamplighter waved at them from the corner, and clouds of cotton candy floated gently above. In this world, the rain wasn't wet, it was warm and syrupy, like drizzles of maple falling from the sky. And instead of umbrellas, people carried pancakes above their heads to catch it. Alma and Leo strolled past gumdrop gardens and a toffee fountain where giggling kittens sipped melted marshmallow. Every so often, the ground would softly rumble, not with thunder, but with the purring of a giant, invisible cat in the sky. "Where are we?" Leo asked. "This," Miss Alma whispered, "is the dream of every rainy day ever wished for by someone cuddled in a blanket." They stopped at a cozy cottage made of muffin tops and knocked on the door. It opened to reveal a bear in a checkered apron, holding a fresh batch of pear scones. "Come in," he rumbled. "You've just missed the raspberry drizzle, but I saved you a slice of thunderberry pie." Back in the real bakery, the storm deepened outside. Thunder murmured in the distance like a sleeping giant, and the window panes shivered gently in their frames. Yet inside the bakery, the warmth wrapped around the walls like a quilt, and the air tasted of clove and rose sugar. Miss Alma slowly closed the book. Leo was already half asleep, crumbs of cinnamon twist on his lap, the story still flickering gently behind his closed eyes. She tucked a crochet blanket around him and let the rain sing its sleepy song. The clock ticked softly. The rain whispered its lullaby. Somewhere in the kitchen, the dough rose quietly, dreaming of being tomorrow's morning buns. And Miss Alma, with flour still on her cheek, sat in her rocking chair by the fire, watching the world outside fall into a gentle hush. Because at the Rainy Day Bakery, time didn't rush. Stories didn't end. And rainy days were always the coziest days of all. It had been 2 days since Leo's rainy day visit, and Miss Alma Honeywell had been humming a tune ever since. She kneaded the dough with a rhythm only bakers know, her hands moving in time with the soft drumming of fresh rain outside. But something was different today. There was a gentle breeze inside the bakery, even though every door and window was shut tight. The little silver bell above the door gave a single soft jingle, though no one had entered. Then the sun arrived. Not cinnamon, nor cardamom, something richer, older, like toasted almonds and pages of a story never told. Miss Alma followed the scent to the back of her bakery, past jars of candied violets and lemon sugar, through the pantry lined with plum preserves and pots of golden syrup. She stopped in front of her very oldest oven, a black iron one with golden knobs and vines etched into the sides. This oven had once belonged to her grandmother, and her grandmother's grandmother before that. Miss Alma reached for the handle, not to open the oven door, no. She reached beneath it, where something small and wooden poked out that she had never noticed before. A latch. She unhooked it, and slowly, creaking softly, a hidden door opened in the oven floor. A stairwell spiraled down, dimly lit by flickering lights like sugar plum fireflies. And at the bottom of those stairs, a soft glow, and the scent of something truly ancient and magical. Alma chuckled softly, brushed flour from her apron, and with a warm tea cake still in hand, made her way down. Below the bakery was not a basement. It was a whole world. A baker's hollow, a hidden town below the streets of Maplewick, where ovens floated in the air, cookies sprouted like wildflowers, and the sky was made of stained glass clouds that shifted between sunrise and twilight. Little creatures bustled about, flower sprites with dusty wings, biscuit badgers, marmalade mice. All of them stopped what they were doing when they saw Miss Alma. "She's returned," they whispered. "The oven keeper is back." Alma blinked. "Well, I suppose it's been long enough." A plump mole in a jam-stained apron rushed over. "We never forgot you. The recipe book still glows by the hearth." They led her into the hollow's great baking hall, where a book the size of a tabletop waited on a pedestal made of cinnamon bark. As she opened it, the pages fluttered to a stop on a glowing title. "The Forgotten Recipe of Dreams." Back in the bakery upstairs, Leo came running through the door, his rain boots even squeakier than before. "Miss Alma?" he called, holding a dripping paper umbrella. "I finished the storybook. But now I want more." There was no answer. Only the smell of almond and something glowing. He followed his nose past the pantry, found the same oven, and tilted his head. Was that always open? He slipped inside just as a sugar plum lantern floated up to greet him. Below, Alma read the ancient recipe aloud, her voice soft as snow. "A dream loaf must be baked in silence. At midnight, under the amber moon. Fold in wishes, stir in rest. And shape it with a lullaby's tune." She smiled. This would be her new specialty. Not just scones and cinnamon twists, but something deeper. Breads that helped children sleep. Pastries that healed broken hearts. Pies that carried messages in their crust. And Leo, wide-eyed and curious, peeked around the corner. "Miss Alma, are you a dream baker?" She laughed softly. "Not yet, dear. But I think I'm about to remember how." Down below the sleepy streets of Maplewick, in the warm glowing depths of the hidden baker's hollow, Miss Alma Honeywell stood at a flour-dusted stone counter, a rolling pin in hand and a sparkle in her eye. Tonight was the night. The fireflies had dimmed to a hush. The marmalade mouse had fluffed a nest in a measuring cup. Leo sat nearby on a bag of enchanted sugar, swinging his feet and watching quietly. It was time to bake the dream loaf. Miss Alma opened the ancient recipe book again. The glowing ink shimmered like candlelight across the page. "Begin with stardust-sifted light. From dreams that form in quiet night. Fold in hush, and knead with care. Add one deep breath of moonlit air." The ingredients weren't exactly normal. Alma reached into a drawer and pulled out tiny glass jars labeled "Whisper of a Lullaby." "Teaspoon of Remembered Laughter." "Petal of a Yuan." She measured each one as if it were the rarest treasure in the world. With each pinch and fold, the dough shimmered a little brighter, turning from soft gold to a deep, cozy lavender. Leo whispered, "It smells like bedtime stories and fresh sheets." Miss Alma smiled. Exactly what dreams are made of. As she placed the loaf into the oven, the ancient iron one that led back to her shop, something amazing happened. The oven didn't heat up. It cooled down. The dream loaf didn't bake in fire. It rose in quiet. It soaked in hush. And with every minute, a new scent curled through the bakery above: warm milk, rose petals, and something too soft to name. Outside, the rain grew lighter, more rhythmic, like a lullaby tapping gently at the window pane. When the loaf was ready, Miss Alma opened the oven door, and for a moment, the room filled with a soft golden light, the kind that usually only lives in morning dreams or just before waking. She set the loaf on a wooden board and began slicing it gently. Inside, the bread was marbled with dream colors: soft blue, stardust silver, cloud white. Each slice held a swirl unique to the person who would eat it. Back upstairs in the rainy day bakery, Alma returned just as Leo wiped fog from the window and watched the clouds shift in the sky. He asked, "Can people really dream different from a slice of bread?" Miss Alma poured 2 cups of warm, sleepy tea and handed him a slice. "Let's find out." That night, they gave the first pieces to the people of Maplewick. To Mrs. Thimble, the seamstress who hadn't slept well in years, she dreamed of a garden where thread grew like vines, and her late husband handed her a coat made of clouds. To old Mr. Peabody, who missed his childhood dog, he dreamed of running barefoot across the fields with his pup beside him, both young again. And to little Nora, who feared thunder, she dreamed she rode the thunder like a drumbeat through the sky, laughing. Each person who ate the dream loaf woke the next morning rested, smiling, and with a little more light behind their eyes. Leo, still half asleep the next morning, asked, "Will you always bake it, Miss Alma?" She looked out the bakery window where the clouds were still soft and the rain still kind. "Only on the coziest nights," she said. "Only when someone needs it most." And with that, the dream loaf became the bakery's quiet secret. Not listed on the menu. Not sold. Only given to those who truly needed a good dream. And if you ever find yourself in Maplewick on a rainy day, you might catch the scent of something like bedtime and stardust drifting from a little shop on Lavender Lane. And if you do, step inside, order nothing, and say softly, "I think I could use a dream." Miss Alma will smile, disappear into the back, and return with a warm slice just for you. The rain had fallen softly all day, puddling beneath the flower carts and trickling along the cobbled lanes of Maplewick. Inside the rainy day bakery, the scent of toasted coconut and nutmeg floated through the air like a cozy lullaby. Miss Alma stirred her honey lemon syrup slowly, humming a tune that only old bakers and young dreamers could hear. Leo sat nearby with his storybook, watching droplets chase each other down the window. Just as the clock struck tea and toast o'clock, the bakery door creaked open. The bell above the door gave a soft chime. But the air didn't warm. Instead, it grew still. A tall, quiet man stepped inside, removing his wet hat with careful fingers. He wore a long, charcoal gray coat, and his eyes, though kind, looked terribly tired. He nodded politely. "One slice, please. Of the one that isn't on the menu." Miss Alma paused. She studied the man gently. "We only serve that to those who need dreams," she said softly. The man's eyes didn't flinch. "That's just it. I don't have any." They sat in near the fire. Leo poured warm spiced milk. Miss Alma returned with a slice of dream loaf and placed it before him with a napkin embroidered with tiny stars. The man stared at it, unsure. "It won't show you someone else's dreams," Alma explained. "It just helps you remember your own." He took one bite. And everything changed. The bakery walls seemed to breathe. The flames dimmed to a hush. The rain paused in midair, just for a heartbeat. Then, a small silver shimmer slipped from the man's chest. A dream. Faint. Flickering. Like a candle that hadn't been lit in years. The man gasped. That was me. I was a boy. In a boat. Sailing between clouds made of flour. Leo smiled. That's a baker's dream. I had one like that too. Miss Alma leaned in. Dreams don't vanish. They just go quiet. All you did was remind yours it was still welcome. The man blinked, as if seeing the world differently now. I haven't dreamed in years. I thought I'd forgotten how. You didn't forget, Alma said. You just stopped giving yourself permission. As the man left that evening, the clouds outside had lifted slightly. The wind carried the scent of clove and hope. He turned at the door. May I come again? Miss Alma nodded. Whenever the skies turn gray and your heart turns soft. And just like that, he disappeared into the mist, a slice of dream loaf wrapped carefully in parchment under his arm. Later that night, Leo curled up near the hearth. Miss Alma, he murmured sleepily, what happens if someone eats dream loaf who isn't ready for it? Miss Alma looked into the fire. Well, she said, that is a story for another night. She gently tucked a blanket over him and let the rain return to its lullaby rhythm. And outside, somewhere in the distance, a traveler with no dreams began to dream again. Maplewick had always loved its rainy days, soft, steady drizzles that smelled like pine needles and chimney smoke. Rain in this town was a friend, calm, quiet, warm. But one morning, it came differently. The skies turned slate gray. The clouds hung too low. The rain didn't dance or whisper, it pounded, fast and cold. Not cozy, not gentle. And it didn't stop. One day passed, then two, then 5. By the end of the week, the puddles had grown deep enough to swallow cobblestones. The flower carts on Lavender Lane were drenched. Windows steamed shut. And the people of Maplewick? They grew tired. The town couldn't sleep. The rain was too sharp. The wind too restless. Even the cats curled up in sock drawers were twitchy and wide-eyed. Miss Alma, always the calm in the storm, lit the bakery's lamps early and set about making her gentlest treats, warm oat scones with dandelion honey, moon milk shortbread, soft rolls sprinkled with yon sugar. But even dream loaf wasn't helping. Something was wrong with this storm. Leo arrived that afternoon, soaked through and sleepy-eyed. Miss Alma, he said, yawning, no one's sleeping anymore. Mama says the rain's making people dream too loud. Alma looked out the window, watching the raindrops hiss against the glass. Dreams can get tangled when there's too much noise, she said softly. Sometimes even the skies forget how to sleep. She disappeared into the back. Deep in the hollow below the bakery, she opened the book of forgotten recipes. The pages flipped themselves, as if they, too, were in a hurry. And there it was. To quiet a storm that dreams too loud, you must bake the hush into the cloud. Steep the silence, fold the peace, and give the skies a crumb of sleep. She gathered the rarest ingredients. A sunbeam trapped in marmalade. A thread of a child's final sigh before sleep. Crumbs from the first nap of spring. The dough was heavier than usual, like it carried something ancient. Alma worked in silence. Even the fireflies dimmed their glow. As the bread baked, the bakery became completely still. Leo whispered, "Why does it smell like quiet?" Miss Alma didn't answer. She just pulled the loaf from the oven, round, golden gray, and soft as fog. She called it the sky loaf. That night, she sliced it into 12 pieces and handed them to 12 sleepy souls in the village. The mayor, the librarian, the little girl who used to giggle in her sleep but now just stared at the ceiling. Each person took a bite before bed. And then? The storm paused. Not stopped. Not vanished. Just paused, like it had taken a deep, slow breath. The rain softened into mist. the wind curled up beneath the clouds like a sleeping dog. Maple Wick exhaled. People rested. Dreams softened. The windows no longer rattled. And up in the bakery, Miss Alma placed one final slice of sky loaf on the windowsill. For the storm itself, she whispered. In the morning, the sky had changed. Still cloudy, but not restless. Still raining, but kindly now. And a single note was left on the sill, written in curling silver ink. Thank you. I didn't know I needed to rest. The rain had quieted in Maple Wick. The clouds now drifted like soft quilts across the sky, and the windows of the Rainy Day Bakery steamed up gently each morning as Miss Alma baked her now famous sky loaf and honey hush biscuits. But one misty Thursday, a new sound echoed in the shop, not the jingle of the bell, not the hum of the oven, but a knock at the back door. Very few people ever came that way. Miss Alma opened it slowly, and standing there, in slippers, of all things, was a small girl with hair like a foggy morning and wide, wondering eyes. I think I woke up in the wrong place, she said, clutching a pillow shaped like a cloud. But maybe I didn't. Her name was Lena. She had no coat, no umbrella, no parents in sight. I was dreaming I was walking down a sugar street with vanilla rain, and then I smelled muffins. And now I'm here. Miss Alma exchanged a glance with Leo. You walked here? From a dream? Lena nodded. This place looks exactly like what I saw in my sleep. Only warmer. Leo whispered, she's like the boy who couldn't dream. But the opposite. Miss Alma placed a slice of quiet berry tart in front of her. Eat slowly, she said gently. We need to find the thread of your dream, before it unravels. That evening, Alma pulled a very old journal from beneath the bakery floor, the Book of Dreamwalkers. On its cover, a silver thread stitched into the shape of a sleeping eye. She read aloud. Some dreams are not meant to end with waking. Some souls wander through both realms, sleeping and waking, seamlessly, silently. They are called dreamwalkers. Leo leaned closer. What happens if they stop dreaming? Miss Alma's brow creased. They might not know how to stay here. That night, they gave Lena a small bed near the hearth, beside a basket of snoring kittens and a teacup of lemon milk. But as the fire faded, and the rain whispered once more, she disappeared. Only a trail of pillow feathers remained, floating toward the ceiling. The next morning, she returned through the front door, laughing softly, soaked in stardust and wearing slippers sprinkled with glitter. I was in a field of falling clouds, she whispered, and a boy made of wind asked me what home smelled like. Miss Alma handed her a slice of dream loaf, still warm. Let's help you find an anchor, she said. They began baking a special loaf just for Lena. The dream root loaf. Its ingredients were gentle but grounding. Crumb of the real world tear. Whisk of thunder lullaby. Crust brushed with moon dew and memories. That night, Lena ate the first slice. And for the first time, she didn't vanish. She dreamed, yes, but she stayed beside the fire, her breathing slow, a faint smile on her lips. She whispered once, now I remember where home is. It's where the oven sings. From then on, Lena visited both realms. Some nights, she would wake in her bed. Other times, in a dream, sipping tea with cloud rabbits or building kites made of whispered stories. But always, she returned to the Rainy Day Bakery. Because no matter where she wandered, she knew how to find her way back. Through scent. Through story. Through the sound of rising dough. The end.